Salut YouTube, welcome back to the Not Even French YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be walking you through what I ate in a week in France. So I have just gotten back home after 3 beautiful months in France, exploring all around France. I went to several different regions I'd never been before. It was very, very cool. And I decided to track what I ate for a whole week. So you can see what it would be like to be living with a French family, just cooking home-cooked meals, you know, running to the boulangerie during the week, a more typical week. Of course, you know, it was a little bit special because we were there on vacation. We went out for dinner a few times and that kind of thing. But in seeing that, you can see, what do French people eat? What does their diet really look like? And not only that, but as we go, I'll be giving you some insider's knowledge and little facts here and there as well about what we're eating day to day and why. Of course, no French person, no French family, no French region has a typical diet through and through. However, it gives you a little bit of an insight, and I think there are some things that are very, very typical nationally. Now, if you are planning a trip to France soon, if you're going to be holidaying there, moving there, or if you're just a giant Francophile and you love learning French, I have to tell you about this. Lingoda are doing another sprint challenge, and I absolutely love this challenge because, as you know, I used Lingoda to learn French. I accelerated my progression from A2, so very, very beginner, all the way to C1, which is technically fluent. And I love talking about the sprint in particular because you can actually get all of your cash back. So it's this language learning challenge, very intense, very fun, and it's about showing up and it's about committing. And if you show up to all of your classes, you can get a cash back. So essentially you can sign up to 15 classes per month for 2 months and get a 50% cash back as your prize at the end. Or you can sign up to 30 classes per month for 2 months and get a 100% cash back at the end. So if you don't know who Lingoda are, they're essentially an online language school founded in Germany, and they connect you with language professors, native professors all around the world. You can learn your chosen language 24/7. You log into the platform, it's super well done. You choose which lesson you would like to try. They connect you with your professor. You have your lesson in a very small group. It's maximum just 5 students. And you even get to download the materials as well to take away with you to keep practicing. So if you are looking to elevate your language learning and accelerate it, so to really boost your confidence and maybe go from beginner to conversational, or a sort of awkward conversational like I was, all the way to real fluency, 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's so much fun, and the sprint is just such a good way to get into a habit, a routine, and actually get into the day-to-day ritual of learning your language. So if you are curious, use my link that's down below because it is a special link that will give you 20 euros or 25 US dollars or equivalent off your sprint registration fee. And otherwise, happy language learning and go get that cash back. Alrighty, so jumping into the meat and potatoes, of this video, let's talk about what I ate for a week in France. So to kick off, let's talk about the first breakfast, which is some French patisserie, delicious, which is a pain au chocolat that was bought from the boulangerie, the bakery. And pain au chocolat are obviously delicious, so flaky, so good, with sort of 2 bars of dark chocolate running through the middle there. You'll also see that there is a plain yogurt. So the French do love their plain yogurts, whether that be goat's milk or cow's milk. They often do come plain. The French philosophy is that we can add sugar to it, either physically adding sugar or adding sugar in the form of jam or compote or something sweet like that. They like to sort of make their own yogurt flavors rather than purchasing them pre-sweetened. And also some seasonal fruit, of course. I was over there in summertime, some apricot and cherries. I think this mix of something a bit carby, some dairy, and then also some fruit would be quite typical of a French breakfast. Moving on to lunch, we had melon jambon. Now I was in the south of France, and melon jambon, so melon and ham, very typical dish there in the hot summer days. So fresh with a nice juicy ripe melon, and then you've got the jambon charcuterie that goes with it as well. Now, what I do want to preface with when I'm sharing these meals is you have to realize that just like any French meal, there may have been a small green salad to start with, and there was definitely a cheese course afterwards as well. We definitely had cheeses after this meal, and then you move on to a dessert too. So if I ever don't mention like a little starting entree or a cheese course after the main dish, just trust me, it happened. And there's always bread on the table. A nice fresh loaf of bread, a baguette, often to have with the cheese course, but sometimes with the salad a little bit, or the main meal as well. I mean, bread can fit in anywhere, right? So after our mélange jambon with a bit of baguette as well, finished it off with a dessert. You can see here Niels is having some yogurt with some added honey. I personally had a piece of fruit. The idea is to end the meal on something sweet. Now moving on to dinner that night, we had a French barbecue, aka une grillade, and with that we had some grilled meat. So we had some lamb chops, and we also had some sausages, and a special kind of sausage which is called merguez. Merguez is a bit hotter, it's got almost a bit of a kick to it, a bit of a spice to it. It's thinner and lower in fat than a typical round sausage, I would say. And it's got almost a dusty kind of red color and a very specific taste. Now with that came a rice salad. So in that salad you have, it's a cold salad, you have rice, tomatoes, egg, gherkins, onions as well. And I would say that salads with cold rice are pretty typical as well. A super easy one that you can do, just cold rice and some nice juicy chopped tomatoes with a bit of balsamic vinegar, and that would be a perfectly acceptable side salad in any French household. Starting off with breakfast the next day, I had a tartine. A tartine is taking a nice slice of fresh baguette and putting some butter on it, and then having some jam as well. You don't have to have the butter, you could just put the jam obviously directly on the baguette as well. That's called une tartine. And with that I had a couple of figs as well. We don't really get figs in New Zealand that much, so I was really enjoying those. What's really cute with the French kitchen is that the jams are typically homemade. So you do see a lot of jams with you know, handwriting on it, with the date and with the flavor. That's usually come from parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties, that kind of thing. It's very wholesome. That day we went into a typical French bistro just in town, nothing fancy, and I ordered, as you can see there, a bruschetta, and on that bruschetta I had reblochon cheese, so really nice French cheese with ham as well, and a bit of a side salad. We also had a tomato mozzarella salad to share with a bit of balsamic, a bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper, and then Niels, as you can see, he's digging into a nice big salad with bacon in it, and it's got these sort of pastry puffs. Inside you'll find warm goat's cheese. That night for dinner I made some ravioles. Ravioles are tiny little squares of pasta. They come in these sheets. They're very soft, very, you know, you only have to cook them about 2 minutes in boiling water. They're very sensitive, and they come in these packs sheet by sheet. And there are many ways that you can eat ravioles. So you can boil them like I just described, you can fry them in a pan. Typically in a French household, if you have ravioles, you could just put a bit of butter or just put a bit of oil so that they don't stick together, and you could absolutely just eat them like that. In this case, I made a sauce with some asparagus, crème fraîche, onion, bacon, some nuts I think as well, and we put that through the raviole. That may not be typical in France. Of course, like with any French meal, you eat that with a nice crusty delicious piece of fresh bread, and you sprinkle emmental, so grated cheese on top. That is absolutely compulsory for any pasta dish that you have in France. You have this pre-grated cheese, emmental. It is absolutely everywhere, like, and you just make sure that that is all over your pasta. The next day for breakfast, you can see that I had some brioche. I love brioche. It's like toast bread, but it is made with crème fraîche, and so it is very soft, and it's got a really yummy texture to it. So a bit of brioche with some jam on top. We also had some rocher coco, some little like coconut macaroons, I guess you would call them, which came from the bakery as well, so I had one of those. Now, as you're probably picking up on, French breakfast, very sweet. So lots of sugar. I mean, everything that we get taught in New Zealand is very much like, you know, the ideal breakfast would probably be some multigrain toast with an egg and some avocado. Like, very important to have a bit of carb, protein, and some good fats as well. That's just not the case in France. Now for lunch that day, we had my mother-in-law's delicious gazpacho, which is essentially what I think, it's probably a lot more sophisticated than that, but cold tomato soup. So it is a cold soup, which is very much enjoyed in the hotter months, particularly in those southern countries like Spain. I believe it's a Spanish dish, Portugal, France, and Italy, etc. And essentially it's a really nice blend with some nice, you know, fresh tomatoes. There's probably, you know, a bit of onion and salt and pepper and maybe even some other vegetables ground up in there as well, maybe some capsicum, I'm not sure exactly, but essentially it creates this sort of cold tomato sauce. And then on the table you have little bowls with ingredients you can sprinkle on top. So you can sprinkle on some capsicum, some bell pepper, some onion, some boiled eggs, for example, croutons, bacon, whatever you like, and you sprinkle that on top and it is delicious. And then for dinner that night we had just pretty simple, some chicken and potatoes. This is absolutely classic. Heat up the oven, put a chicken in a dish with lots of garlic, lots of oil, and some nice fresh seasonal potatoes as well, and let it all just cook together in the same jus. And then you cut up and you have the chicken with the potatoes as well. That night as well we had a delicious cheese course, so you'll see some nice cheeses popping up here. I discovered a beautiful cheese that I love now, which is called Saint-Nectaire. And then I also discovered nice cheeses. It's almost like a Comté, like harder cheeses that you slice up into quite vertical slices, and the skin around the cheese, it's like it had dried flowers and spices. It was so full of aromas. It was absolutely delicious. Okay, so for breakfast the next day, I had a slice of my father-in-law's almond cake. So he made a nice sort of, and this is quite classic, like a very simple sort of basic cake with a nutty or a fruit glaze. In this case it was a nice almond cake. I had a slice of that. I also had some chocolate, as you can see. Yes, French people eat chocolate for breakfast. That is absolutely okay in that culture and I'm not complaining about it. Alongside some fruit and again some yogurt and jam. That day for lunch kept it pretty simple, just grabbed a sandwich from the boulangerie, but of course the French sandwich is the ultimate sandwich because it's made with a nice big chunk of baguette, fresh baguette, nice and crunchy. And then inside I think I had some mayo, some chicken and some salad. The classic would just be some ham and cheese. And then that evening it was a little bit special. We had some family around and there was a birthday as well. And so that night we had couscous. Now couscous is one of French people's favorite dishes, even though it is more Middle Eastern, I believe. But obviously you've got the grains and then you've got several different kinds of meat usually, so some sausages, some lamb and so forth, alongside the spices and the currants and everything, into a nice delicious couscous that is a dish enjoyed by the whole family. And then as you can see, that night we had lots of cakes to our choosing, whether that be beautiful fraisier, so strawberry cakes with cream, all the way to a classic peach tart. Now coming into the weekend we were on the move, so you'll start to see the diet go downhill a little bit, not in terms of tastiness but in terms of being nice and balanced and home cooked meals. But essentially that morning for breakfast I had an almond croissant, which is my absolute fave, with some fruit juice. That day for lunch I had beef carpaccio with a side salad as well, and for dessert I ordered some white chocolate and dark chocolate mousse. For dinner that night there was a bit of a village festival going on with a crepe chuck, yes, so you can get both, you know, savoury and sweet crepes, and that's exactly what we did. I think in my savoury one it was pretty classic. It was just ham, cheese, egg and onion. And then for my sweet one I had caramel beurre salé. The next day we were staying in a hotel, so we had a kind of continental French breakfast. So as you can see, there's everything from pancakes to little sugar donuts to pain au chocolat to compote, yogurts, fruit, sponge cake, juice. As you can see, sweet. And so to balance that out a little bit, that day for lunch, as you can see, I had a nice French omelette. French omelettes are super plain but delicious. Everything you need. It's usually just, you know, eggs and cheese, maybe sometimes some bacon or ham, but they're usually, you know, a bit of onion. Very simple with a nice big salad on the side. And then for dinner that night had a nice pizza. Now France does great pizza thanks to their neighbors in Italy. Thank you, Italy. You can find great pizza all around France, and pizzerias, pizza super common all throughout France, especially in the south of France. They are everywhere. That day for lunch we just grabbed some burgers. France also does a pretty good burger, at least they're getting better and better at them. Hey, it's not French food per se, but they're putting their own twist on them. And then as you can see, that night we went out to a really nice restaurant. I had this kind of cherry tomato with sorbet, kind of fresh seasonal salad creation, then a really nice piece of lamb with some veggies, and to finish off, the most delicious tarte au citron. But it also had a bit of lime in it as well, and it was just beautiful. So friends, I hope that you enjoyed that journey into a week of food in my life in France. Wasn't it delicious. Eating in France is just such a joy. It really does have delicious food. It is a taste sensation. The pastries, the cakes, it's all just so beautiful. Sometimes it's just a work of art. And then on the flip side, keeping it really simple, you know, of just a fresh garden salad, chuck some rice and tomato together, make it a salad, good meat, good veggies, keep it pretty simple as long as it's high quality produce, and you'll be happy. I would love to know what you think about French food in the comments below, because I know that some people adore it and some people are a little bit like, what's the big deal? And if you do know French food, let me know what your favorite is as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you here next time on the Not Even French YouTube channel. A bientôt!